Frontline Community Church started here in a factory bay on a freezing cold day in January of 2000. Legend has it that on that first Sunday, Y2K had been threatening to shut down the church before it even started. So right from the beginning of Frontline's history, there were some unique obstacles that it had to overcome if it was even going to be born and start its journey as a new church. The mission was simple. It was to reach people with the message of Christ, to connect people to the body of Christ, and to send people out equipped to be the hands and feet of Christ. Since that day, this little handful of people has grown, moved 3 times to larger facilities, hired staff, started ministries, and seen hundreds of people come to Christ and get baptized. Back then, there weren't a bunch of paid staff, there weren't ministry budgets, and there definitely weren't hundreds of people. In fact, there was only about 30 people in attendance the first services at Frontline. All there ever really was in the beginning was a God-given dream of what the church could look like. A place where families could enter into a relationship with Christ regardless of where they were on their spiritual journey or what had come before in their story. A crazy church planting couple named Jim and Renee Miller who believed in that dream with all their hearts, and a handful of people who committed to giving their energy, their time, and their resources to see it become a reality. It didn't take long for the church to relocate to this elementary school in Comstock Park. The gym was rented out every single week for Sunday morning services to be conducted, while the church's office and storage space remained off-site at a different location. This created the need to set up and tear down every single week. Volunteers would show up early in the morning and stay till long after the service was over, making sure that everything got put back again so it would be ready for the next week. In the meantime, there was a small Wesleyan church that was meeting in this facility on 3 Mile Road in Walker. Without a pastor, they were facing tough decisions about their future. God began to stir their hearts toward the same dream of what could be with Frontline. They decided to make the bold move of giving this facility at 3 Mile Road in Walker to Frontline by allowing us to just take over the existing mortgage. Now, this was a huge move for the church. What this allowed us to do was it allowed Frontline to be able to hire its first paid staff, who was me, actually, as the worship pastor. And it allowed us for the very first time to have our first permanent location in this community. Over the next several months, hours and hours were spent by volunteers remodeling and upgrading this building and bringing it up to speed. And hours were spent getting out into the community and inviting people to come and be a part of the first Sunday grand opening in September of 2001. There were about 326 people in attendance that first day. And within a couple of months, the church was running around 200 people steadily on Sunday mornings. The next few years brought significant growth in attendance, launching of new student and children's ministry programs, hiring staff, outreach events, things like Laugh-In, and all kinds of space problems. With just 65 parking spaces and running 3 Sunday morning services back to back each Sunday, leadership knew that something had to be done. The feeling around the leadership table in those days was that while the dream hadn't changed, the facility had to change in order to make room for what was to come. When I first saw this building, it was an office building for Meyer Corporation. I remember we walked through it as a staff and just looked at the building and just sort of tried to get an idea in our heads of what it would look like if this became our new home as a church. 103,000 square feet of pure ministry potential. I mean, it was hard not to get excited about what our future could look like in this building and what we could do in the community if we had a facility that we could leverage like this. But there was no way a church of our size could afford a price tag like Meyer was asking. After a time of seeking God and prayerful consideration of what our next step should be, the church offered Meyer $2 million for the facility. It was a laughable offer. But after several months went by and a few better offers fell through for Meyer, they finally accepted the measly $2 million that Frontline had offered. It seemed like God was answering our prayers and opening the door for the future that was bigger than any of us had dared to imagine up to that point. As always, It was the hard work of volunteers in the church that really made things come together. We did all the demolition work ourselves, and much of the construction was done by people in the church. And then finally, on September 17th, 2006, Frontline held its grand opening services at the current building. Since then, the dream of what this church could be, a place where families enter into a relationship with Christ, regardless of where they are on their spiritual journey or what has come before in their story, has continued to take shape. Our prayer is very simple, just that people every week would enter in through these doors and have an encounter, a real encounter with the risen, resurrected Jesus Christ, and that then they would go out of these doors changed into this community where they would be the hands and feet of Christ, incarnated in the world that we live in. So over 10 years, a lot has changed. Buildings have changed. Plans have changed. People have come and gone. Even programs have come and gone. But what stays the same year after year is the mission: to reach people with the message of Christ, to connect people to the body of Christ, and to send people out equipped to be the hands and feet of Christ. People just like me, people just like you. So I wonder, 10 years from now, what will your place be? What role will you have played? How will God use you as a part of the body of Christ as we move forward together?